Hi everybody! Today we are going to be talking with our middle school age students about making and setting boundaries for themselves as well as respecting boundaries that other people have. So obviously the church cares very much about the spiritual well-being of all of its members. We want everybody from our youngest members of the church to the oldest members of the church to feel like they have a secure relationship with God and they have really strong faith and they know that God will support them through difficult times in their lives. But we also care about people's physical and emotional and mental well-being as well. Obviously, we want people to be able to keep themselves safe. God created all of us unique. He created all of us special. Everybody's bodies, everybody's minds are fearfully and wonderfully made by God. And because of that, we want to make sure that we are keeping our bodies and our minds safe and that we are acting in a way that will keep others safe as well. And we want to treat everybody with respect, and we also have a right to expect that other people will treat us with respect. So we really like to make sure that at least once a year in our faith formation programs, we are talking about those other parts of safety. So like I said, the main topic that we want to talk about today is making boundaries for ourselves. So I want everyone to think about what a boundary means. So boundaries can be physical, and they are there to separate something from something else. So like a fence or a wall, a door, a window, those are all boundaries that are physical that are keeping something in one place and other things in another place. Now there's also invisible boundaries, things like laws and rules, things like personal space. There's not physically, a hula hoop around each one of us showing like how close you can get to other people, but everybody kind of knows if there's a stranger, you don't get up right up in their face like you might to go hug, a best friend or a family member, just different thing, and you don't need something that you can see visibly in order to know that boundary is there. There's also emotional boundaries or mental boundaries that you can make. Like if you have a friendship and that friend is starting to bully you or making you uncomfortable or kind of being mean or starting to do things that you don't want to be involved in and you don't really like to hang out with them anymore. An emotional or mental boundary would be saying, I'm not going to talk to this person anymore. I'm not going to hang out with this person anymore unless they start treating me with respect and unless they start doing things with their life that I'm comfortable with. So there are all different ways that boundaries are existing in our lives, whether they're boundaries that we make or boundaries that other people make for us. For example, think about some of the rules that your parents have for you that are there to either keep you safe or to help you be successful. Things like a curfew. Like in high school, I had to be home by 10 o'clock at night. That was to help keep me safe and make sure that I got enough sleep and that I had time to do my homework and my chores and everything else that I needed to do. Another boundary was in my house that pop was not a breakfast beverage. No pop before 10 o'clock in the morning. I tried the argument that coffee has caffeine and the grown-ups drank coffee, and that argument didn't work very well. But anyway, that was a boundary. Pop was something that you drank at lunch and dinner time. It was not something that you drank for breakfast. So think about different rules and boundaries that your parents have for you. And now try to think about some boundaries that you might have for yourself that you have set. Again, those boundaries might be physical. Maybe you've said to your siblings, if my door is closed, it means that I'm doing homework or I'm trying to sleep or something, and please don't barge in and just start talking to me because I'm working on something. Maybe your boundary is invisible. Maybe you are somebody who has different levels of physical affection that they're comfortable with. My son only likes to hug and kiss his female relatives. He does not like to hug and kiss his male relatives. And that's just something that that's something that he's not comfortable with. And it's mostly because he's just very attached to me, his mom, to his grandmas, and he's not quite so attached to dad and grandpas and uncles, and that's just kind of how he always has been. I'm a hugger. I like hugs. I will hug people when I meet them for the first time. My idea of personal space is a lot smaller than other people's. My very best friend does not like to hug. She doesn't like to be touched. She doesn't like people to come near her. She doesn't want people to touch her hand. She doesn't want to shake hands. She doesn't want anyone to be anywhere close to her. And because I love her and I respect her, even though I am a hugger and I like to hug people, I don't hug her because I know it makes her uncomfortable. So I have to respect her boundary. Also, like if she's having a really bad day or she's really upset, a situation where most people want to be hugged, I will ask her, is a hug helpful right now? Do you want to be hugged? Will it help make you feel better if I hug you, or do you not want me to hug you? So it's really important that you are able to respect other people's boundaries, and that you're able to verbalize, that you're able to describe and speak those boundaries to people when it's necessary, especially if someone is starting to cross those boundaries or invade your space. Being able to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm comfortable with this. And you absolutely have a right to do that. You have a right to be comfortable, you have a right to feel safe, you have a right to have those boundaries in place, whether they are physical or emotional or mental. And if for some reason someone isn't respecting those, then you need to make sure that you're going to get somebody who can assist you. So that if someone is repeatedly ignoring your boundaries, you need to get somebody else involved. So an adult that you trust, whether it's a parent, a grandparent, another relative, a best friend's parent, coach, teacher, somebody that you feel safe with and that you trust needs to step in and also communicate your boundaries to that person or help you in getting out of a situation where you're around that person. And you also absolutely have a right to do that. There is no room for disrespect in either direction. So you should not be violating someone else's boundaries, and you should not be comfortable with people violating yours, and you should be advocating for yourself, speaking up for yourself. So if one of your friends and you are hanging out and they want to go and steal something from a gas station and you're like, that's against the law, I'm not going to do that, you need to be able to stand firm in that and say, either, I'm not going in there with you, I'm not participating in this. You might not even probably want to hang out with that person anymore if that's their idea of fun. And you need to be confident enough in your boundaries to be able to say, I'm not okay with that and I'm not going to do that. And to not let people peer pressure you into doing something that you're not comfortable with. Bullying language, making sure that you're not participating in bullying someone else, even if it's peer pressured where someone else is gossiping or saying something mean about someone else and you kind of feel like you have to join in. Not being peer pressured into that. And also standing up for yourself if somebody tries to treat you that way and say mean things to you or try to be nasty towards you. Being able to stand up for yourself and say, that's not right, don't speak to me that way, and if you're going to speak to me that way, I'm going to get someone else involved. And this extends also to the internet and to anything that happens electronically. So this is not just physical interactions with people or things that are said face to face, but this applies to social media, text messages, emails, Snapchat, anything like that. If you are communicating with someone else or they're communicating with you, you have the right to enforce boundaries in each area of your life, whether that's in person or online or through the phone. So in the same manner, you should be respecting people's boundaries online as well as in person. A good rule of thumb is if it would be wrong to do or say in person, it's wrong to do or say on the internet or via text message or video chat or anything like that. So there are a couple of different activities that are on here in your packets, and there's going to be a few questions on the form that follows this about those. So those are first a boundaries journal analysis. So basically it's going to ask you for a couple of different things about yourself. So what you believe about yourself, what you believe about God, what you value, what you like and dislike. And then it's going to ask you to think about what other people think. Your parents or guardians think that you value or think that you believe certain things. Your friends, your church, your school. And even the media, if you look at movies or magazines or anything like that, what does the media think that you value? Who are they marketing to? And then the last thing it's going to do is it's going to ask you to look for some similarities and differences between how you view yourself and how you think other people view you. And then kind of look at places where those differences can cause like some confusion in your boundaries and your relationships. There's also a activity called Boundaries for Takeout, and basically it has you try to pick a week where you're going to really enforce one of these 4 actions for the week. For example, answering honestly if someone asks your opinion and giving your honest answer instead of like just kind of going with the group or saying what you think they want to hear. Not participating in an activity that you don't want to participate in. This does not mean that at school, if you are having to do a group project or something in gym, we're not talking about that. We're talking about anything that's against the rules, anything that's against the law, anything that would put somebody else down or hurt somebody else that you're not comfortable with, making sure you're not participating in that. And it's going to ask you questions about each day, kind of anything that happened and how you answered, and kind of evaluating, are there places in your life where your boundaries could be stronger? Are there places where you kind of don't really have defined boundaries and you maybe need to think about what you are and are not comfortable with? And then lastly, there is a short questionnaire called You Are Worthy, and it'll ask you a question, and then you have to answer if that question applies to you, which is yes, or if it's possible, or if it doesn't apply to anyone in your life that you know. For example, it'll say, trying to make decisions on my own without this person's input is really tough. Sometimes I'm afraid to say no to this person. I constantly feel anxious around this person. So if you answer yes or possibly to any of these questions, it's a good idea to think about if there's any boundaries that are being crossed. Obviously, that's not going to always indicate that there's a problem. For example, I have a really hard time saying no to this person. If you're really close with your parents and you respect them when they ask you to do something, you're probably going to go along with what they're asking you for. And as long as what they're asking you for is safe, like do your homework, do your chores, let's have a family game night, that type of stuff, then that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you have yes or possibly answered, it is a good idea to kind of take a deeper look at that relationship with whatever person comes to mind and try to decide if maybe your boundaries there need to be a little bit stronger.